everybody. My wife is old, and if I know anything about women, it's that they love to be reminded of how old they are, which is why every year I'm obligated to get her something to remind her of her progression up the age chart. This year's no different. So I'm not going to tell you how old she is. Of course, I wouldn't do that, but you would think after going through this 50 times, it would be old, but it's not. So I was still obligated to get her something. And it's the usual dinner, knick-knack things, something for the house, whatever. Did that, but I also got her something that I might enjoy too when I drive her car, and something I think she'll enjoy when she's using it. And that is, I got one of these 10-inch floating Android Auto Apple CarPlay head units. Now, it's going in her Altima, which is the one I put the head units in earlier on one of the videos I did. And just like that one, this is straight from China through Amazon and not expensive, sub $300. Like the first one, it's a name I have never heard of and can't pronounce. Some interpretation of the English language by Chinese marketing. It's pronounced EONON or EONON or EINON or Strap-on or Bang-a-gong. I don't know what this brand is. Doubt you will either. But we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Doing an unboxing here, and let's see what we got to work with. Okay, so here she is. Nice black box, corrugated paper material for strength. That is the brand name, as I mentioned. Make of it what you will. It's open for interpretation. Maybe in the comments you can tell me phonetically how you would say that. Good luck. This is a 10.1-inch Android Apple floating head unit from Amazon. It was a few dollars under $300. Has all the functionality that I would want. The CarPlay is obviously the screen mirroring, Bluetooth, AM, FM, backup camera, audio, video inputs, subwoofer outputs, etc., etc. Very functional, at least in its specs. It has everything you would want in a more expensive unit, and we'll see how it performs compared to those units after we get it in. But let's do a quick unboxing of this. My box, and take a look at it. There she is. Nice TFT display. It's not a super HD one. I think it's just a 1024, maybe a 1280 screen. It's got some direct input buttons on the side and the screen there. Here's the processor and modules in the back. It's a double-DIN standard size mount. Hope that the mount that I have in the car currently for this, I think it's a Kenwood, I can't remember, a stereo that I have in there right now, I can just reuse the chassis mount that I got from Metra. There's the inputs on the back. You got the master harness here and the fuse, and then you have the inputs. Two of these here are for USB leads. There is one for the Wi-Fi antenna, one for the GPS antenna, and a couple others, I think mic lead and all that. So those each have their own pinouts here and connectors. These are actually right up here, the inputs for the antennas. And it came with all the wiring. I was actually really surprised. The wiring harness on this is very complete, and you have all the accessories you should need to get all the functions on it going. There's the specs on it, if you can read that. Probably not, and it's upside down, so we're not going to worry about that. Go ahead and move this off to the side, and let's get these leads together that it came with. There's the master harness. Here is the USB lead for the CarPlay. Oh, there's so many of them in here. We got the antennas here. This is that's actually a microphone. Here's the GPS antenna, another USB lead, which I'll need for the in-car lighting that I have. Here's the Wi-Fi antenna, and they actually included some adhesive for that too. That's a pretty big antenna. I don't know if I'm going to hook this Wi-Fi antenna on, because with the phone in the car, the likelihood that you'll be using the Wi-Fi or the stereo isn't very high. I guess if you're downloading apps directly to the stereo, you'd want that, so maybe I will. Thinking out loud. All right, here's the video in leads, and then the DIN connector for the back. And here's the microphone lead right here. And it does have a built-in mic on the front of the head unit too. I don't know how sensitive that is, but it has a remote lead for the mic as well. I think this is the warranty card in there. Dude, it came with a legit trim puller. This thing is stout. I am very impressed. Thank you. Sorry, video cut out there. But back to the trim puller. Yeah, this is really nice. It's way sturdier than the one I've had before. It's even got forks for plastic rivets to pop out. So that's a cool deal there. Glad it came with that. I did get a new, I could probably have reused the one I had before, and this is the same one. It's a Scosche harness adapter for the, camera cut out again, Scosche harness adapter for the body wiring. This is the one that has pretty much all the ones you'll need just to get the radio up and running. And this is your battery, your accessory, your speaker leads and ground. So I already have the same one in there, but I probably trimmed it back a bit, so I'll just bought a new one, make sure I have enough length on it. We're gonna have to solder that all onto the main connector for the stereo. And then we got this guy here, which is all of your line outs and your antenna lead to activate your sub if you have a subwoofer in the car. Very complete, comprehensive harness. I feel much better about this unit unboxing it than I did about the Eincar one that I put in there way back when. There was a lot that wasn't included and very hard to understand how they wired it on that one. This one's much straightforward, so I don't think we're gonna have any major issues, any issues at all getting this wired in. And then we have a user's manual. This is the soft side manual. It really doesn't have any of the wiring information in it. It's just about the apps and how to use the interface. But there's good information in that. If you get it, I would read through that before you do much of anything else. I perused it and I get the gist of it. Let's make sure there's nothing else in here. Now, all those harnesses, they weren't loose. They came in this nice sealed aluminized bag, and it does give you some screws for mounting. Don't know if I'll need them. This doubled in, I should have standard sized and located inputs for screws from that Metro kit, but we'll see when we get it all apart. The installation of this is what I hope to accomplish tonight, and I've got to get my, try to get my soldering station set up. I haven't soldered in a long time, and I got to make sure I still have the stuff. I'd like to solder these wires together, not just do butt connectors and tape, but if I can't get my solder stuff, it's still happening. I'm going to just do the twists and tape them together. So I'm going to get all the stuff put back and get the workbench cleared off, and we'll go over the mounting, not the mounting, but the wiring of the master harness for the stereo to the body harness adapter I got from Scosche. All right, well, I found my soldering iron. Didn't find it. I knew where it was, but I cannot find my solder anywhere. And I know I had some. I mean, there's no way I went through a whole long roll of solder over these years. I do so little of it. However, I've looked in all my drawers as much as I'm going to, and I just can't find it. And I'm not going out to get a roll of solder right now. So we're just gonna unplug this guy and go with plan B, which has actually been my plan A for decades until I got into trying to do things right by soldering, which is just to cut, strip, twist, tape. And works just fine. That's what I'm going to go ahead and do here. Now this master harness that came with the kit, all of the main leads that you'll need to get it running are in this big bulk harness here, and you don't need that. I have no idea where that would lead anyway. It's certainly nothing that I own. But if you see here, you've got all your speaker connections, your accessory feed, your battery power, your ground is all on this. So we're going to cut this off of this harness, and then we're going to have to splice it onto the Scosche adapter specific to my Altima. And now the back of this has the color codes, and then that just matches up obviously with what you have on these wires on these labels. It'll work just fine. I'm not going to bore you with the details on that. Going to go ahead and get snipping and twisting and just get this ready to go. All right, so when you're done, you end up with something like this, hopefully better. Just went ahead and did the twist and tape method on these. They'll all be fine. They've always been fine for me before. The ones I'm not using, these were capped already from the factory harness, and I just cut the exposed wiring off of this side here to prevent any shorts. These extra wires are for amp lead that I'm not using, illumination, which the stereo has its own illumination, and key access for whatever reason. And this kind of corresponding ones to over here, amp lead out and illumination on the Scosche harness. But this guy's wired in, ready to go, and have the backup input. These are pretty much the only ones I'm going to be using on the wiring side from the car. The rest are direct inputs from accessories like the GPS antennas and the USB leads. So after this, I'm going to go ahead and get the car opened up and get the old stereo out. Nothing special about that. Just go ahead and get it taken out and get ready to put this one in. Okay, it's the next day. Last night I test fit the unit into the car, made sure all the wiring was correct and that it would mount up with no difficulty. Made sure the wires were tucked good. This morning I went back and went through it again, did some relooming of some things I couldn't see last night, and positioned a couple of the antennas for the Wi-Fi, and I went ahead and just decided to use the existing GPS antenna I had from that old car unit instead of looming the one that came with the kit. Antenna should be an antenna, and it worked okay. So it's installed now. The fit is still really good. That Metra double-DIN adapter that I had worked with this one as well, and it's been quite versatile actually. Now it's had 3 different stereos in it, and it's worked with each one of them, so good for that. The unit itself is now ready. We can go ahead and power it up. I'm just going to turn it on to accessory here. Watch this guy boot up. There's your splash screen with the name that cannot be pronounced. It does, first, I guess, checkbox on the review would be boot time. This thing has a pretty long boot time on it. From startup to functionality is in excess of 30 seconds. And then there's another like second load that happens once you see the screen activate. If you start selecting an app, it'll kick back and do the rest of the loading. So once it comes up, you want to give it even a little bit more time to finish loading up. This is the welcome screen, or home screen rather. These are the Android features here and the basic radio features. The navigation goes to Google Maps. The radio, of course, is radio and Bluetooth connectivity. Music, this would be file music like MP3s you've downloaded to the storage card. Then you have the video for camera access and apps. We'll go ahead and look at the face of it a little bit. Here on the left-hand side are direct access buttons for power, the home screen, back, and volume control. I did notice last night these side controls are not backlit, so at night they're hard to see, and you do have to use them, specifically the volume buttons. There's no direct access slider on some of the apps in here to adjust volume. You have to initiate it with one of the buttons, then the slider appears on the bottom. That's a little annoying, but not terrible. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at the settings first. From the slide down, typical Android, you've got your top system access buttons here and information. There is not a direct systems feature button here. That's down here in the apps section, but you've got your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, volume control, screen brightness, equalizer, and not even sure what that one is. I haven't even pressed it yet. Let's find out together. See if anything happens here. Nope, not so much. Okay, so from there, let's go ahead and go into the apps, to the system settings. Here on the back screen, you notice you can swipe on this left and right, typical cell phone type interface. Your Android settings are here. Has 12 gigabytes free, so 16 gig, I think, internal memory and a 2 gigabyte system memory. You got your network information here. I do have this connected to my home Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi antenna, I went ahead and adhered it to the back of the unit here. I did not want to loom it up through the A-pillars and find a place to stick it so it's sticking out the windshield. I'm not going to be using Wi-Fi on this a lot, so I just took it out right here at the corner of the vents and the radio mount, and then just stuck it onto the back of the unit here, and it's working okay. To the Wi-Fi, another thing I've noticed is this does not have a 5 gigahertz antenna in it. It's just 2.4, so you're going to be speed limited on the Wi-Fi in the unit itself. When you're downloading apps, that is a problem, and it just takes more time. Then you've got not a lot of things you can really do here. It's okay. We just use the Wi-Fi mostly from this screen. Go ahead and hit the back button here. You can put your users in here for your Google accounts. I've got mine and my wife's loaded in there. And you can control the typical Android stuff like language and all that, and add, remove apps. That's about it for here. Go back to the screen. I have downloaded some apps on this. I've downloaded a YouTube app. It came with the Netflix app, and I've also downloaded my Gmail app here. The browser portion of this, the actual tablet style functionality of this, is pretty good, but it is slow. The processor in it is not the fastest in the world. Don't want to open up my Gmail so you can see it, but let's just do YouTube here. Let that come up. So this came up here. This is I'm on my profile, so I've got my linked YouTube videos in here. We'll go ahead and just launch one of these. Fair use, right?
Hey guys, a warm welcome back to the channel. Lots happening in today's video. With a project like this,
following this 512 BDI view. So here we'll hit the volume buttons, and you can see once you hit that volume button on the left, the slider will appear. And then it's functional. It's pretty nice. So that's working actually better than it did before. Maybe it's had time since I've loaded it to, or started the car up to buffer a little bit, but this has been slower in the past, and I anticipate it may be slow again. You've got your buttons here to go back to the menu features. We'll hit back here, close this video out, and we'll go back to apps. Downloaded all this from the Play Store, so that works fine. One thing this unit does have, it has this torque monitor software in here, so if you got a Bluetooth OBD system from Torque, you can monitor your OBD functions here, check codes, and see system performances for your car. I may actually get that now, because it would make it so much easier to clear all the P0101 codes you get with a Nissan, the MAF sensors. They pop up on the dash so commonly, and I've gotten to the point where I actually carry an OBD scanner in the car so I can plug it in and clear them out every time they come up. But if you got it through here, you could just, if you got that Torque OBD adapter down there, you can just use that. The Netflix app did work, which was cool. Then not a lot left to go through there. I'm not going to make this an Android tutorial. This is about the stereo. So you've got direct access for navigation, radio, Bluetooth again on this panel. Let's go to the navigation. Again, this part here is through Google Maps. So you got your typical Android search feature here. You could search for wherever you want to go. The map will respond. You can start the navigation. So the bottom line of this is there's no integrated maps. See, this is taking a bit. This is what I noticed earlier. It's not super responsive on this. The voice functionality does work on it, so it will start giving you voice prompts for your turns and everything.
Head west.
There you go. So that's working better this time. Good. So I'll give it maybe an upgraded score now at the end, because that's working a little bit faster than it did before. All right, one last thing on the Android apps. It does have the browser built in, so you can surf the web while you're in the car. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and do a speed test on it. This is on my home Wi-Fi now. I'm outside in the car. But from here, I can still get over 130 megs per second on my devices with my home Wi-Fi in the driveway. I have a really good router. And but with only the 2.4 gigahertz antenna, we're going to be speed limited on these tests. Wait for that to come up. You can see the speeds are not fantastic. I mean, they're usable in a car. Let's be honest with ourselves. You're in a car, you should be driving. This is not your home entertainment system. So it works good enough to download an app and do some basic browsing when you're online trying to use the feature. So I got just under 10 megs per second. I haven't tried hooking it to my hotspot for my phone on my cell plan. Might do that real quick. Let me activate my hotspot here. And we'll do a speed test on my hotspot Wi-Fi. Get this turned on. All right, so we'll go back to the home, and we'll go to apps, and then we'll go back to settings, and then Wi-Fi. Could have swiped down from the top too. Let's find my Wi-Fi here. There's my hotspot. We'll connect to that one. All right, now we'll go back to Chrome and do that same test again. See what I get off of my T-Mobile hotspot here. Yeah, and it's not that bad. This is just the unit's antenna and its processor, and the fact that it only has 2.4 gigahertz on it. So a little bit less than my home, but functional. All right, enough for the internet side of that. Let's go to the main features you'll use when you're using the stereo, and that is the CarPlay. Let me plug in my phone. And it should tell us it's all. So CarPlay works really good. Let me turn this volume down real quick. This unit has been fantastic on the CarPlay side. It's quick. The navigation through the phone, obviously it's mirror linked, and I will use this. I won't use Google Maps unless I lose my phone, because the screen mirroring and the CarPlay is so much faster for navigation. Let's find a destination here. Figure out how to use this again. Let's search for gas station and go to a quick trip. See how much faster this is responding? That's the way to use this head unit, is not with the Google Maps, but through your phone, either through the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Very fast, very responsive, very accurate, of course. Okay, then down here in the corner is the main home screen for your CarPlay, and it's got your navigation and your music here. I'm going through Google Play Music, and I've got to keep the volume down on this. We'll talk about the audio quality in a minute. I just don't want to deal with any copyright BS from this video with the music playing. So I use Google Play Music for my music service, and it comes up just fine through my phone. It plays good. You got full descriptive icons for the music. You can tell I'm a child of the 80s. Just look at this playlist here. Hey, Kate Bush. Give you a little peek at Kate Bush, because we love Kate Bush. Hopefully that's short enough for Google's algorithm not to kick me off on it. But it's fantastic. This unit is really, really slick. It's on the CarPlay side. That's the way to use it. Let's go now to the radio side, the tuner. And you've got your search, seek functions here, your presets here. I have not had a chance to set any of this up yet. It's working just fine. Give it a quick little volume adjustment here.
To change what it means to play games. The first foray will be in the live.
All right, so having heard that, we'll talk about the audio quality. It's much better than the Kenwood I had in it before. Way better than the Eincar unit that I first put in here. This has 20 more watts per channel than the stereo I had before. If I read the manual correctly, this is 45/4 on its output, so double the power. And it's actually at a point now when I've actually been cranking it up a little bit. I may have a justification now to replace the speakers in the car to get better ones, because I think they could actually benefit from the power output that the head unit's providing. So that's maybe the next thing I do, is upgrade speakers on it. But radio functionality is really good. The tuning is just fine. Finds the stations. I live quite a bit outside of the city, so some of my stations have static when I'm just in the driveway. That's normal. But it's actually picked them up pretty good, all things considered. I haven't even messed with Bluetooth, because who would Bluetooth when you have CarPlay? So, but it works, I'm sure. Okay, what else to test here? I haven't done this yet. Let's do the GPS accuracy test and see how this goes. All right, it's found plenty of satellites, and the signal is just fine, so it can triangulate pretty good. And let's go through here. I'm just clicking buttons because I haven't ran this before, but Got a quick fix, and this is through the old antenna, as I mentioned, that came with that Eincar unit, and it's working just fine. So that just makes me feel better about going through the trouble of getting under the dash and looming the wire for the new one, because this one's working okay. All right, that's the basic overview of this head unit. So the responsiveness is great. You can see it just goes where your finger goes. It's on par with newer systems you would get built into cars. So, and that was the idea, is get this 2012 Altima a big upgrade on its infotainment and navigation. And it has accomplished that just fine. It does have the backup camera hooked in. We'll go ahead and start the car so I can show you that. And just like before with the other unit, I've got it tied to the reverse lights. So when you go into reverse, your backup camera comes on. Turn my turn signal off here, I bumped it. I have ordered a new backup camera because this one is weathered in the lens. It just looks terrible at night. It's practically useless. So I have a brand new backup camera. Should be here tomorrow, and that'll be a quick wiring because I've already wired it through the car. I just got to tie it in the trunk and mount it to the deck lid. And I'll have a much better backup camera. But this, the point is, again, it works, and the screen is big, easy to read. Let's go ahead and pop it back out. Now see how fast it comes back to your functions for your everyday use. The phone works fine. It does have a mic right here, very small, but it also has a mic input in the back, and I did hook that up so that now I have it into this mic I have mounted in the A-pillar there. That'll be the primary pickup for voice conversation now. Let's see if we're missing anything here. Let's go ahead and turn it off through here and see how that works out. So you got to hold the power button down and it will turn off. Let's turn it back on and see how fast it boots. It comes back up. So that's more of a pause button than an off button. It'll completely shut down, hard reset when you power the car off. You hit this button here and it basically just goes into a suspend sleep mode. Gosh, there was one more thing. Oh, the brightness on the screen. This button here is like a screen mute on the unit. You tap it, it'll come back up. So if you don't want it on when long drives and the glare is getting to you, you can just use that button there. Let's go down here though and see. We can adjust the nighttime back and daytime backlighting. This will be very useful when you're driving. You want to be able to dim it so it's not right in your face, because this is a, let's face it, it's a big unit. It's 10 inches and it puts out a lot of light. Last night when I was setting it up here, just here in the driveway, at full tilt brightness, it was too much. It would really bother you driving. It could even be possibly dangerous. So it's good that you can just adjust this down as needed. Auto mode's on. I may monitor that tonight to see when it kicks into night mode and dims the screen. It didn't last night, and it should be set through local time, which maybe that's the problem. Local time is 12 hours plus off. I got to get in there and set that. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning. It says it's 5:01 p.m. So I probably thought it was like noon when I was testing it last night, and that's why it was still so bright. But worst case scenario, you can just pop in here and you can manually dim it like any tablet. All right, so the EONON, I give up, head unit is super slick. As I mentioned, this is sub $300 Android, Apple CarPlay, full tablet mode, Wi-Fi enabled computer for your car. And the price point is just fantastic. So after hooking it up and going through all the features and using them, I'm stoked. This is super cool. Big upgrade for the vehicle. The only variable now is durability and longevity. We'll see how that goes. I've only had it hooked in for less than 24 hours, and we really haven't driven around with it yet. But I really see this as being a pretty slick deal. One thing to consider when you're installing it in your car is the size of this thing. And you want to make sure in your dash setup that it's not going to block anything you need to drive. This one here, if you look at the bottom, actually will just comes to the top of my climate controls. So I still have full functionality and you can see all the buttons here, but they are slightly obscured by the size of this tablet. And if your dash is set up differently, this thing could cover up some important buttons. Measure it out and make sure that's not going to be a problem before you get a unit, an add-on unit of this size. They make smaller ones, like 7 or 8 inch ones, and that's what you may have to use if you don't have the real estate on the dash to accommodate these things. Having said that, this one's working out great, and the fact that it's bigger is better. All right, so we'll go ahead and close this video out, and I'll post links to the Amazon page where I found this, and if you guys are interested, you can read it up and maybe go ahead and get one of these for yourself. But for now, let's go ahead and just power this car off, let it shut down, and we will go ahead and call this a win. This EONON car unit, EON, I don't even know why I'm trying to say the brand of this thing, is cool. It's everything I was hoping it would be. My wife has used it. She really enjoys it. So for the birthday present, it was a super win for that. I get credit for it. And she can use it now whenever she's driving. Thanks a lot, and hope you found this review useful, and we'll see you on the next one.